A can of tuna exposed my wife's cheating. I kicked her out and got her a fair partner fired. I never thought a simple can of tuna would expose the biggest betrayal of my life. But that was exactly what happened. My wife and I had been together for 6 years, and I had always believed we were happy. We had our routines, our inside jokes, and our shared dreams. But everything shattered the day I opened a can of tuna from our pantry. It was not even a big deal at first, just a random craving for a tuna sandwich. But when I saw that the can was a specific brand I never bought and smelled different than usual, a strange suspicion crept into my mind. Something did not add up. I had no idea that this small, insignificant detail would unravel the truth about my wife's double life, leading me down a path of betrayal, rage, and ultimately, revenge. My name is Jake, and I used to believe I was living a perfectly normal life. I had a stable job in IT, a comfortable home, and, most importantly, a wife I thought loved me as much as I loved her. Laura and I had been together for 6 years, married for 4. Our relationship had its ups and downs, like any marriage, but I believe we had a strong foundation built on trust, love, and mutual respect. Looking back now, I see that the warning signs were there. They were subtle at first, little changes in her behavior that I dismissed as stress or the natural evolution of a long-term relationship. She started spending more time on her phone, texting late at night with a slight smile on her face. When I asked about it, she would brush it off, saying it was just work or a friend. She became more distant, less engaged in our conversations, and more defensive when I asked about her schedule. The intimacy between us changed, too. It was not just the physical aspect, though that had decreased significantly. It was the emotional connection. She seemed preoccupied, like her mind was somewhere else. But every time I tried to bring it up, she would reassure me that everything was fine. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that my wife was still the same woman I had married. Then came the little lies. She would say she was working late, but then I would find out from a coworker that she had left on time. She claimed to be spending time with her sister, but her sister mentioned in passing that they had not seen each other in weeks. I told myself these were innocent oversights. Maybe she just forgot. Maybe I was overanalyzing. I did not want to be the jealous, paranoid husband who accused his wife of things without proof. So, I pushed my doubts aside and convinced myself that I was imagining things. I told myself that Laura would never betray me. But then, one seemingly insignificant moment changed everything. It all started with a can of tuna. Laura and I had a routine when it came to grocery shopping. We both took turns buying the essentials, but there were certain items that only I ever bought, one of them being canned tuna. I had a favorite brand, something I'd been eating since childhood, and Laura never touched the stuff. She hated the smell, so she never had any reason to buy it. One evening, I decided to make myself a quick sandwich. I went to the pantry, reached for my usual can of tuna, and froze. The can in my hand was not my usual brand. It was something completely different, one I had never seen before. At first, I thought it was a simple mistake. Maybe Laura had grabbed the wrong brand by accident. But when I looked closer, something fell off. The label was slightly worn, as if it had been handled frequently. And then there was the smell. When I opened the can, the scent was different, faintly familiar, but not in a way I could immediately place. I stood there, staring at the open can, feeling a strange sense of unease creeping in. It was such a small thing, just a can of tuna, but something about it made my stomach twist. That night, as we sat down for dinner, I casually asked Laura about it. "Hey, did you pick up a different brand of tuna?" I asked, keeping my voice light. For the briefest moment, she froze. It was barely noticeable, just a flicker of hesitation before she laughed and shrugged. "Oh yeah, they were out of your usual one, so I just grabbed whatever was there." It was a perfectly reasonable explanation, but something about the way she said it did not sit right with me. Her voice was just a little too casual, her laugh a little too forced. A feeling of unease settled in my gut. I could not shake the suspicion that she was lying. But why would she lie about something so small? That was the moment I decided to trust my instincts. I had ignored my doubts for too long. It was time to start paying attention. The next day, I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. It gnawed at me, whispering in the back of my mind that Laura's explanation did not make sense. So, I decided to do something I had never done before in our entire marriage. I started paying closer attention to her actions. It began with small things. I noted the time she left for work and when she returned. I observed how often she checked her phone and who she was texting. I watched how she acted when she thought I was not looking. And the more I paid attention, the more uneasy I became. One night, Laura told me she was heading to her sister's house for a girls' night. Normally, I would not have thought twice about it, but something about the way she said it felt off. Her voice was too careful, like she had rehearsed the excuse beforehand. So, instead of staying home, I decided to drive by her sister's house. It was out of the way, but I needed to put my mind at ease. If she was really there, I would let this paranoia go and never think about it again. When I arrived, the house was dark. No lights, no sign of life. I parked across the street and waited. Half an hour passed. An hour. Still nothing. Then I saw her. Laura's car drove past me, without stopping. She was not coming from her sister's house. She was coming from the opposite direction, heading toward the part of town where her supposed work friend lived. I did not follow her that night. I was too stunned, too frozen by the realization that my wife was lying to me. But that moment confirmed what my gut had been telling me all along. She was cheating on me. After that night, I started digging deeper. I checked our shared bank account, looking for any unusual transactions. Sure enough, there were charges I could not explain, hotel stays, restaurant bills, even small gifts I had never received. Then, I found something that made my blood run cold. A grocery store receipt tucked into her purse. Among the list of items was that same unfamiliar brand of tuna. And suddenly it all clicked. Laura never ate tuna. She hated the smell. She never bought it in the entire time we had been together. But now there was on the list. I thought back to the faintly familiar smell from that can I had opened. It was not just any tuna. It was the same brand her coworker, Ryan, always ate for lunch. I had seen him with it before, sitting at the office break room when I had visited Laura at work. That was it. The final piece of proof I needed. Laura had been buying that tuna. Not for me, but for him. That night, I waited until she got home. I sat at the kitchen table, the receipt in front of me, along with a can of tuna. When she walked in and saw me sitting there, she immediately tensed. "What's wrong?" she asked, forcing a smile. I picked up the receipt and held it out to her. "Why did you buy this?" Her eyes flickered to the paper, and I saw the moment she realized she had been caught. "Jake, it's just groceries. Why are you making a big deal about this?" "Because you hate tuna," I said, my voice eerily calm. "You have never bought it before, but now, all of a sudden, you're buying a brand that I do not even eat? The same brand Ryan eats every day at work." Her face paled. "You have been lying to me, Laura," I continued. "You were never at your sister's house that night. I saw you. I followed you. You have been cheating on me, and you did not even bother to cover your tracks." For a moment, she did not say anything. Then, she tried to turn it on me. "You followed me?" she snapped, her voice rising. "Are you seriously spying on me? Do you know how messed up that is?" I scoffed. "Do not try to twist this around. I would not have needed to check if you had not been acting suspicious in the first place." Tears welled up in her eyes, but I'd already made up my mind. "Pack your things," I said coldly. "I want you out of this house tonight." Laura's expression shifted from shock to desperation. "Jake, please, we can talk about this," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "It was just a mistake." I shook my head, my jaw tightening as I repeated her words bitterly. "A mistake," I scoffed. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk from the store. A mistake is sending a text to the wrong person. Cheating is not a mistake, Laura. Cheating is a choice. A deliberate, selfish, disgusting choice." Tears welled in her eyes, but I did not care. Not anymore. She stepped closer, reaching for my hand, but I stepped back as if she were poison. "Jake, please," she whispered. "I know I messed up, but it meant nothing. I was feeling unappreciated. Ryan was there, and it just happened. But I love you, Jake. I love us." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "You love me," I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. "That is rich. You love me so much that you snuck around behind my back. You love me so much that you lied to my face every single day. You love me so much that you let another man touch you while you came home to our house, sleeping in our bed, acting like nothing was wrong." She flinched at my words, but I was not going to stop. "Do not insult me, Laura," I continued, my voice steady but ice cold. "You made your choice, and now, you're going to face the consequences." She dropped to her knees, her body racked with sobs. "Jake, I will do anything. Please, just do not end this. I will block Ryan. I will quit my job if you want me to. I will prove it to you. Just tell me what to do." I stared at her, feeling nothing. Not the love I once had for her. Not pity. Not even anger anymore. Just a cold emptiness that settled deep in my chest. "Get up," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "You are leaving tonight." She looked up at me with wide, panicked eyes. "Where am I supposed to go?" I shrugged. "That is not my problem. You made your bed, Laura. Now lie in it." After she left, I sat in silence for a long time, staring at the walls of what used to be our home. My mind raced, replaying every lie she had ever told me. Every moment of deception. The betrayal burned, but beneath it, another thought emerged. This was not enough. Ryan was just as guilty as she was. He had knowingly engaged in an affair with a married woman. He had gone behind my back, laughed about it with her, and disrespected me in the worst possible way. And he thought he was going to walk away without consequences? No, that was not going to happen. I opened my laptop and started digging. I already had the screenshots of Laura's texts, the receipts, and the bank statements. But I needed more. I accessed Laura's old messages that were synced to our shared cloud account. The things I found made my blood boil. Messages of them mocking me. Ryan joking about how clueless I was. Laura laughing about how she would spend the weekend with him while telling me she was going on a work trip. That was all I needed. The next morning, I gathered every piece of evidence and made my move. I knew Ryan's boss. We had met a few times at company events. So, I sent everything to him in an email. I kept it professional. I explained that I was bringing this to his attention because it was inappropriate workplace behavior. I attached proof that their affair had taken place during work hours, how they had used company resources for personal matters, and how it could impact the integrity of the business. Within hours, I received a response. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. This is not acceptable behavior in our workplace. Appropriate actions will be taken immediately." I leaned back, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. Ryan had thought he could disrespect me, that he could steal from me the trust, the love, the years I had given to Laura, without facing the consequences. Now, he was about to lose everything. The fallout was swift and brutal. A few days after sending the email, I received confirmation Ryan had been fired. Apparently, his company had a strict policy about workplace relationships, especially ones involving deceit and misconduct during business hours. His boss had not taken it lightly, and from what I heard, Ryan had not just lost his job, he had destroyed his career. Laura, on the other hand, was spiraling. She bombarded my phone with messages, begging me to talk. Some were filled with regret and apologies, while others were angry, blaming me for overreacting and ruining her life. I ignored every single one. Then came the in-person attempts. One evening, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Laura standing there. Her eyes were red and puffy, her hair a mess, and she looked like she had been crying for hours. She was clutching a small bag as if she had nowhere else to go. "Jake, please," she whispered. "Just let me in so we can talk." I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. "There is nothing left to talk about." She sniffled, wrapping her arms around herself. "I have nowhere to go," she admitted. "Ryan, he will not even answer my calls. He is blaming me for everything. I lost my job, my apartment, everything." I watched her for a moment, feeling nothing but a dull sense of justice. She had destroyed our marriage, humiliated me, and now she expected me to be her safety net? "You made your choice, Laura," I said calmly. "Now live with it." Her lips trembled, and she took a shaky step forward. "Jake, I messed up. I know that. But we were happy once, right? Maybe we can fix this." I let out a dry laugh. "Fix this? You think you could just waltz back into my life like nothing happened?" Tears streamed down her face. "I was stupid. I got caught up in something that meant nothing. But you meant everything to me. Please." I sighed, shaking my head. "You were willing to throw me away for some cheap thrill. And now that your affair partner has abandoned you, you want me back?" "No, Laura, that is not how this works." I stepped back and shut the door at her face. Her sobs echoed through the hallway, but I did not waver. Laura continued trying to reach me for weeks. She sent me long messages about how she missed me, how she realized her mistake, how she wished she could take it all back. But mixed in with those were bitter, angry texts, blaming me for destroying her life. She accused me of being heartless, of overreacting, of ruining everything just to get back at her. Eventually, I blocked her number. I wanted nothing to do with her anymore. Word of what happened spread quickly. Ryan's life was in ruins. Not only had he lost his job, but his fiancée, yes, he had been engaged, had dumped him after finding out about the affair. Apparently, she had been planning a wedding while he was sneaking around with my wife. Now, she wanted nothing to do with him. I later found out that Ryan tried to get another job in his industry, but his reputation followed him. His old boss had made it clear to others in the field that Ryan had violated company ethics. No one wanted to hire him. And as for Laura, she moved back in with her parents, completely humiliated. The next thing I did was file for divorce. I made sure that Laura would not get a dime from me. Since we had no kids, and she had been the one who cheated, the process was fairly straightforward. She tried to fight it at first, begging me to reconsider, but I did not budge. At one point, she even called my mother, crying about how much she regretted what she did. My mother, who had never liked her much to begin with, shut her down immediately. "If you really loved him, you would not have thrown everything away for a cheap fling," my mother told her. "Now leave him alone." That was the last time Laura tried to involve my family. Over the next few months, I focused on rebuilding my life. I started working out again, putting effort into myself in ways I had neglected during my marriage. I went out more, reconnected with friends I had lost touch with, and even dipped my toes back into dating. And you know what? Life was good. One night, I was at a bar with some friends when I saw Laura sitting alone in a corner, staring into her drink. She looked miserable, completely lost. For a split second, I felt sorry for her. But then I remembered everything she had put me through, and that feeling disappeared. She had made her bed. Now, she had a lie in it. Sometimes, I think back to the moment I opened that can of tuna. Had I not noticed the missing cans, had I not followed my gut, would I have still been in the dark? Would I have continued living a lie, oblivious to what my wife was doing behind my back? That simple, seemingly insignificant detail had unraveled everything, and I was grateful for it. I had escaped a loveless, dishonest marriage. I had freed myself from someone who did not respect me. And most importantly, I had learned my worth. Months passed, and I found myself in a much better place. My career was thriving, my social life was active, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Then, one day, I received a message request on social media. It was from Ryan's ex-fiancée. She had heard about what happened and wanted to meet for coffee. I stared at the message, a smirk tugging at my lips. Maybe karma was not just about punishment. Maybe, sometimes, it was about giving people a second chance at happiness. If you enjoyed this story, do not forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon so you never miss an update.